Yeah.
It's a crazy time. But thank you again for
Yeah, of course.
taking the time to talk about the film today. So I just want to say, Secret Lives of Asians is such a great film. Can you tell us a little bit about the story behind it?
Yeah, so the genesis of the story behind it, or the actual story of the film, like a narrative?
You can talk about both.
Okay, so the actual story of the narrative is actually one of those one night follow sort of deals where we follow two characters, Sayuri and Chen, as they go from the quote unquote underbowels of the Chinese American and Chinese society of New York City to the quote unquote underbowels of the Korean American and Korean society of New York City. And it's this really saturated satirical take on showing Asian Americans in a way that they really aren't shown in media these days, in a strong, in a satirical, in a funny, and an also very colorful and diverse way. Um, so yeah, I guess that kind of tackles both of the standpoints of like the narrative of the story, but also the narrative of how the story is conceptualized. I think one of the most interesting things in it is that we all speak different languages, and that's unedited, and we all just speak our own language. But it's basically two people, a Japanese woman and a Chinese man, venturing into Korean territory to save their drunk Chinese um, friend, or I guess little brother, from the grasps of the Koreans. It's very satirical, fun little piece.
I really enjoyed it. I think the cinematography is really great. Especially like going out a couple of times, like in the city, and like you were saying before, like these like model minorities. I feel like Asians are sometimes depicted in films as like a doctor or just something
Yeah.
that's. I mean, I feel like we could play more characters than that, but that's just like the roles that we get for some reason. What do you want people to know about your character in the film?
My character in the film, I think my character in the film, but also the other characters, are, as you said, represented in a way that is different than a lot of times Asians share the screen. We're not a store owner. We're not represented as store owners or lawyers or doctors or best friends or anything of the sort. But what's interesting is that in moments of the movie, it is referenced that our lives are that sometimes one of them is a student. I work in an office. My character works in an office. The other one works at a food truck, so we do lead these normal American or normal Asian American lives. But at the end of the day, who we are as people is very different, and very centered around some other identity that is usually not shown on media. And I think that's the important part to know about all of these characters, including mine, is that, you know, we can't be pigeonholed into one thing as we usually are. We are multifaceted. And that's really what this kind of like almost comic, overblown second character that we portray is meant to establish. And I think that's really important to take it like that instead of face value. Wow, look at those like weirdly dressed Korean like gang members. It's like not that. It's yeah,
I think it sends out a lot of important messages, and it is satirical, which is it's very funny. I kind of got like the Kill Bill kind of vibe, but
yeah,
like with
yeah,
the Asians.
definitely. Hmm.
Yeah. So I like how the synopsis of the film is what does the model minority do after dark? Have you
Hmm.
experienced this type of nightlife before?
Yeah. No, well, probably not like the cops crashing in and the dancing. That part. It's larger than life, which I love. That probably will not be, you know, happening anywhere every single night, but definitely the vibe of it, the underground like halls, the kind of mahjong, the small clubs, the rooms and the karaoke's and KTVs, like those are very, very, and I'm sure a lot of people have experienced them as well.
Yeah,
But
I
those,
actually really love K-Town. I haven't been, like I said, back since the pandemic, but it's always just so fun there. There's so much to do, and I think there's a lot going on that people don't realize. But like you said, like K-Town, New York can get really crazy, but I didn't know to this extent. Like, what was your experience like while filming?
while filming, oh, okay. As always, it's very surreal to be on a set like this, because especially on location, it's very surreal to be doing something that you would usually do on a weekend. I don't really hang out in K-Town, but I've had similar nights in Korea. It's strange to be doing something like that, but so overblown, and suddenly you go into a dance number, and suddenly. But I think it's really magical because I think the biggest part of being on this set that was amazing to me was that all the actors were just speaking our native tongues, and we had originally thought that that would pose a problem for our communication or our acting or anything of the sort. But because this culture and because this nightlife experience and because this experience in general has been so universal for us, even though we come from different walks of Asian life, it was kind of easy to communicate, even though we didn't understand what we were saying. We kind of did understand through our intention, through our shared experience, through our shared memory. And I think that's one of the coolest parts of being on set for
It's
this.
also like a merge of like different cultures, like you said. Did you run into any challenges at all while filming?
I personally did not. um, and I think I can speak for my fellow actors as well when I say it was actually, as I said, a lot smoother than we thought it would be. Um, they might have experienced a little more of that because they did traverse all, all two or three aspects, Asian aspects of this film. But I was only there for the karaoke scene with those two, and that worked out perfectly. So I don't think there were any walls. I think the wall was that we thought there would be a wall, but it ended up not being there, which we thought was really cool.
I really liked like everyone's dynamic in the film. I feel like everyone played their role pretty like awesome and greatly. Do you have it's a lot of it like we were talking about like in K Town. Do you have any favorite spots in
In
K
K
Town?
Town,
Yeah.
actually, I guess sorry to disappoint you. I mean, I don't really go to K Town much. I go for food sometimes for dinner, but I don't really go out as much there. I think what's really interesting to me was that, as I said before, those kinds of clubbing scenes in K Town, those kinds of joints in K Town are usually, except for one place that I think closed down, usually flooded by non Asians. It's the place that all of Manhattan goes to hang out and party, so it's not really like a stoically Asian experience, really
Yeah.
ever. Which was interesting to me because those kinds of experience I experienced more in Asia proper. Like when I go back to Korea to visit my parents or see my friends, that's sort of what the nightlife is like. Um, but it was funny to see that in Koreatown, which is traditionally a place that is ironically not very Asian.
Yeah, I'm definitely not disappointed. I know we're just talking about it, but I obviously like I feel like in Asia, there's always some sort of nightlife. Like my family's from Vietnam, so there's like this one strip where, it was kind of like the ones in the film, and it's kind of like a Las Vegas, like Cancun, like strip of I don't know, all of
Yeah,
these entertainments, but
yeah,
it's always better in Asia, right? It's like
yeah,
I think maybe like you said, like K Town is very it's crowded. It's like and you don't always get the I guess the full
yeah.
Asian experience, but I think that's like
It's
kind of maybe
crowded,
the
it's
closest.
international. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of the times I feel like a lot of the Asian enclaves in the States, um, including Cape Town, Little Tokyo's everywhere, Chinatown everywhere. The not sad part, but the interesting part, I would say, is that it's not actually Asia, it's the Western's view of what Asia should be. And
Right.
even if the restaurants, even if the establishments there are run by Asian people from their respective countries in Asia, they are catering ultimately to a largely white audience and what they believe should be there and what they believe
Hmm.
would work. And so usually I don't know if I'm sure the experience is a little different for Asian Americans who were born and raised here in the States, but as a person who immigrated here in his mid-teens, it definitely is a little jarring or different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just feel like it's so close to like Times Square, so it's very touristy. So I think that's why it's more like you were
yeah.
saying, the Western
Hmm.
Asian American vibe. Let's talk a little bit more about the film. How was working with the director and the cast on the film?
Yeah, so I'll speak on the director first. Kevin is amazing. He really has a vision. He's very clear on what he wants, but also does not force it. And so it's really freeing to work with him to create what we both envision as the character. So he's not like the type to go like, okay, you didn't give me this, I really need this from you, you need to give it to me. He's the type that kind of consults with you to allow us to find something that works for both of us together. And I think that really helped through the process for not only me, but my fellow actors as well. And, you know, my fellow actors, I love them. We still talk to each other, we still hang out, and it's been like a year or two. So, yeah, it also speaks to like, we will keep running into each other for a very long time because the scene is pretty small, as you know. But yeah, they're all amazing. Director, I mean, he has proven himself as an amazing director once again. His most recent film, Taipei Suicide Story, is going to Cine Foundation. It's going to be playing at Cannes. And so Cannes, I guess. My God, my Korean pronunciation is coming out. We say Cannes, so it's like Cannes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so amazing guy.
No, congratulations on the film. It's really great, and I saw that it was accepted to a lot of other film festivals, which is
Yeah.
amazing. And can you talk a little bit more about the behind the scenes productions? Like I felt like every scene was like so great.
Mm-hmm. What aspect of behind the scenes?
Maybe anything from like the underground scenes or
Mm-hmm.
even to like just the restaurant, like karaoke bar kind of thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, location tracking for those was actually, you know, done by the director himself with a few friends. And he was really, really meticulous in choosing the right vibe, really meticulous in choosing the right location to really show the vision that he wanted for this as not a thing happening with a bunch of Asians just huddling around in the United States. This is like our place. No, it was like, this is our home. You know, this is what we made for ourselves. And we really chose locations that benefited that vision. And I think it was definitely a community effort, very big community effort. Um, a lot of the people that you see in the background, the extras and stuff, they're, you know, friends and family, even some of the owners of the establishments, owners of the, and so it's like kind of very community oriented. And yeah, Kevin really had a vision for those locations as well. I remember him being really meticulous and exact about what he wanted out of those. And so,
I thought it was pretty funny that it ended with the K-pop scene. Like, why do you think that the director, added that bit in?
yeah, so that's kind of like the, you know, penultimate moment when we're getting uh, boxed in by the cops, and we're like, okay, this is the thing that's going to save us, the K-pop dance sequence, and it weirds the cops out, sends them away, right? And I think more than that comedic value, I think what was important is that, hey, look at these three characters, definitely from different underbellies of the big city, of the big melting pot, speaking different languages to each other, but in the similar way that we can understand each other because we share an experience in the United States. Um, there's this one thing that recently has been uniting all Asians around town, and that's been K-pop. And so that's kind of like the symbolic value of like, hey, what's going to save us? Oh, it's unison. Even though we're so different, we come from different lives. This unison is going to save us in a very comedic and larger than life way.
Yeah, because it was like seconds before, like everyone's like about to just
Explode, yeah.
yeah explode, like kill each other off, and then it kind of like you said, transitioned to like this very satirical scene, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
And the film is also so great. So like, are you working on any other projects?
Right now,
Hmm.
I am not. I was a student for a little bit after that film ended, and then as you know, COVID hit and school had to kind of shut down because acting is, you know, very large contact, large. Um, you know, you need to scream at people and cry, and lots of fluids going back and forth. It's not the best thing to be doing around a pandemic. So, kind of taking a
Yeah,
break from that. But yeah, doing other forms of art. Yeah.
that's good. Well, it's such a weird time, and I'm glad. Thank you for your time today. I think people watching this film will um, really laugh at it and enjoy it as much as I did, especially during this weird time. I think a lot of like laughter is needed.
Yeah.
So thank you again, and
Thanks so much, Stephanie.
thank you. Have a good one. See you later.
You as well.